Hello, Miss Sandra. And 10 other people that are watching but actually haven't clicked on the video. Hey, Mr. Norris, Miss Kimberly. One person on YouTube who I can't tell who it is. 21 other people on Facebook. We got about 10 minutes before we start. Good news. I think I figured out all of the mistakes I've made with the microphone for daily mass. So if I do this and everything is hooked up correctly, everything should get kind of quiet. Except that my iPhone thinks that I'm hitting my home button right now. So things are going to get really weird as I put the sound back up. Hopefully that won't trigger that again. That, Mr. Randy, that's what we're going to talk about, is the protocol for Sunday Mass. If you go to Christ the Redeemer, CTR-htdiocese.org, that's Christ the Redeemer's website. There's going to be the first button, the first big button on that page will take you to either to the Mass times or to the Mass with social distancing page. And that's got all the protocols on it. And the bottom of the Mass with social distancing page, there is a big old there's a PDF that the diocese puts out that looks really pretty, but it answers all those questions as well. This whole posting to social media from a parish thing has been a big change of pace for me. I'm not really used to you put something out and get 400 responses. That when it was it's just my Facebook page, I don't get a whole lot of engagement, so it's not a whole big deal, and it's enough that I'm not overwhelmed. But when we do stuff here at the parish, all of a sudden you get 400 different pieces of engagement, and it gets hard to follow every individual piece. Hello, Miss Bernadette. I discovered this morning that you can invite somebody else to be in your live stream. And I thought it looks like I thought it was like a picture in picture, so that you could use your camera facing one way to photograph one thing and then another way to okay. Apparently the letter was not attached to the email, which, if that is the case, that lets me correct a slightly significant what's the word? A typographical error in the letter. I'll get that fixed as soon as we're done here. I'm being quiet, and I know I'm not supposed to do that, but I don't know how to play music without breaking all the laws and rules before we start. Okay, that should be fixed. You all should get a second email. The program that we use to send out mass communications very easily right now is called ParishCast, and ParishCast is a little different than your average email editor, and I'm just haven't gotten used to it. So on Gmail, you just drag a file into the email, and Gmail automatically uploads it and puts it in the email, and everything is nice and easy. For this, you have to upload a file into it, and then click another button to add a link. And I'm not used to that, but I'll get better at it as we go along. Hopefully, this will be more ordinary communications and less extraordinary, weird things that have to do with us going through a pandemic. That we won't be doing that for too much longer. We got about 2 more minutes. I appreciate that there's as many people that want to hang out with me at 6 in the evening as there are who want to go to daily mass at 7:30 in the morning. Yes, I just sent the second email, having done everything correctly. But the letter, just like last week, the letter that's in the email, once you get the one that's got the letter in the email, it's the same thing that's on our website. It's the exact same text. We're just trying to duplicate that information out there so that we have a better chance of more people getting the initial, thing, and then we have a better chance of being able to get everybody who gets it, hands it off to another person who didn't get it. We'll get it to almost everybody, hopefully before the weekend. And as we go further into having mass at a regular times and regular clip, the extraordinary the emails and all that will become not unimportant, but less important, because we'll also have the Sunday mass announcements. And that's where we know we've got everybody that wants to go to mass, because everybody that wants to go to mass is going to be either at mass or watching mass at home. Okay, well, it's 6 o'clock, and I think I'm ready to start, and we'll probably have some people straggling in. But once the video is done, I'm going to leave it posted on Facebook. I'm going to leave it posted on YouTube, and then I'll save it and make it pretty and embed it on our website on the Mass with Social Distancing page, especially as you guys ask questions, and I'll be able to provide answers to them without having to do too much extra work for you or for me. So let us start with prayer. So in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Good and loving God, who have always been for us a healer, we ask that you would come into our world again right now in a special way and remove from us, or lessen for us, the coronavirus. Heal those who have contracted it, and protect those who expose themselves to it in order to better serve us. Everybody in the medical profession, everybody who works in our retail and food and all the different places that we rely for help. We ask you, Lord, that you would help us to remain strong and not to become discouraged or distracted as we go forward and as we deal with the different elements of the coronavirus. We thank you, Lord, and we ask special intercession through Our Lady of Prom Succor. Our Lady of Prom Succor, hasten to help us. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Thank you all very much for joining me. My hope is that I'm going to say a few things about Mass this weekend at Christ the Redeemer. I can only speak for Christ the Redeemer, and I know there's a bunch of people from other parishes, so please check with your parish if any of the information in this video is not the same as your parish. Some of this stuff is general and will apply to everybody, but uh, I can only speak clearly and certainly and succinctly for Christ the Redeemer Parish. Okay, in a nutshell, we are going to resume having public Mass in our church. The governor of Louisiana is allowing businesses to reopen so long as they can operate with the demands of social distancing that we have experienced for the entirety of the stay-at-home order for this coronavirus pandemic. Here's what that means. We will be allowed to gather again for the first time, but we have to do it in a way that is safe and is going to help us continue to flatten the curve. Our goal here is to make it such that our medical community can accommodate those who get sick. I heard recently somewhere, I don't remember where I heard it, but what's different now is before the coronavirus is still a big issue. It's still dangerous. It's still out there. We can still catch it. But now, as we open things back up, we're opening things back up because there's a hospital bed for you if you do catch it. So we have done a good job here in the state of Louisiana and in the city of Thibodaux in doing what we need to do to flatten the curve of the spread of the coronavirus and help this thing end more quickly. So that is really important. That's something for us to be proud of. And seeing results because of the things that we have suffered, and we just got to keep on doing those things, and it will continue to get better as we go forward. So that is the whole thing in a nutshell. But practically speaking, now we have a whole bunch of practical questions that we have to do. We're allowed to do Mass with a public gathering. We haven't been allowed to gather in more than 10 or more people for I'm almost at 6 months. I'm sorry, 6 weeks. For the past 6 weeks, we haven't been able to gather in large groups. So here's what that means. On the weekend of May 16th and May 17th, that's this upcoming weekend, gatherings of more than 10 people are allowed. What that means is the governor has asked businesses as they reopen to only occupy a quarter, 25% of their maximum occupancy, also keeping in mind the 6-foot social distancing. As we move forward into further phases, they're going to allow larger percentages of the spaces to be used. But the reality of our situation is churches don't have a bunch of open space. We have pews, we have chairs, and we can put out more chairs, but there's a concrete limitation to how many people we can fit in the church and keep 6 feet in between each group. So what that means is even as the percentage of our operating space continues, so long as we need to keep it the 6-foot distance, we're going to have to operate about the way we are coming up shortly. Okay. At Christ the Redeemer, we are going to reinstate our usual Mass times for this time of the year. That means we will have a Vigil Mass at 4 p.m. and 3 Sunday Masses at 7, 9, and 11 a.m. Now, as with last weekend, I have to ask that nobody try and come in the church except for our volunteers and staff before 30 minutes before Mass. So here's why we're doing that. We need a space in between, especially the Sunday morning Masses. We need spaces in between the Masses where the church is empty, where we can do our sanitizing procedure to make sure that the church is now safe for the next person. And the more we do this, the slower the spread of the coronavirus is going to happen. There's going to be less opportunity for it to impact and infect other people. We will operate according to social distancing. That means there's going to be 6 feet between each person attending Mass. Between each group of people attending Mass. Just like with last weekend, families that live in the same house and interact with each other on a regular basis will be able to sit together. And in fact, because of the concrete constraints of being in our church building, We're asking you to sit together. So not only can you, but we kind of need you to do that. Now, here, the following guidelines, this is all the stuff that we've been doing, so let's keep on doing it. But the following guidelines are the best collected wisdom. They are the best ideas from the people who know medicine and know viruses, and then been communicated to us through the local civil government and from the diocese. We're asking that everybody who comes into church will wear a face mask, and you will wear that mask from the time you enter the church until you leave the church, except when you're receiving communion. So you're going to wear that face mask. We have ordered some face masks. They didn't arrive as we expected. You know how the delivery has been strange this whole time with the quarantine. They didn't arrive in time for Saturday Mass, but we will have them for outside Mass this past weekend, but we will have them for this weekend coming up. We'll have a limited number of masks. So if you show up to Mass and you didn't bring a mask, we will have them until we run out. And then when we run out, because we're in the church, nobody will be allowed to stay who does not have a mask. So we're asking you, if you do not have a mask right now, if you don't have a mask at all right now, as soon as you can, get one. Either a cloth, there are people around the diocese, around the area making cloth masks. Just if you can get one, get one. And what I'm suggesting to you is you either for our lady friends, you put it in your purse. And in fact, moms, you want to put everybody's in your purse. You're not going to forget that. You're going to bring it to church, right? Everybody else, put it in your glove box. Put it in your glove compartment. You're not going to forget your car. You're going to go in your car. And if you have a couple of masks, you might want to hide them in different places where you're not going to forget them. And that will make sure that you have a mask when you come to Mass at Christ the Redeemer. Because of the practical realities of this, we're going to need a seating procedure. So at the most basic level, we don't have the capacity right now to actually take an RSVP. Last weekend, we asked everybody that was coming to the Saturday outdoor Mass to share with us if you were coming and how many people you were bringing. And we heard that we were going to have about 80 people. If you were here, we had about 250 people, which is awesome. But that's about 3 times more than what we were expecting. However, I was also expecting 200 plus people anyway, because I brought enough hosts for that. So just so you know, we had about 250 people show up at Mass. So it is possible that you show up for Mass and 150 of your closest friends showed up as well. And the church will be maxed out. According to the numbers, our church can hold about 170, 180 people. But that doesn't take into consideration the fact that we can't put people everywhere in our church. There's spaces in our church, like the aisles, that are in part of that calculation where nobody is going to be seated. So we may not be able to fit all 170 something people in the church. So our masses will be at Christ the Redeemer will be first come, first serve. Here is also important. We need the time to prepare the church. So please don't come into church more than 30 minutes before Mass. But Mass will be first come, first serve. Our 4 p.m. Vigil Mass and our 7 a.m. Mass, those Masses don't usually get to 200 people on a given Sunday. And I suspect that our usual Mass attendance will be lower because there will be people that are vulnerable that don't come. And there will be people who I don't want to expose myself, or I work with somebody who's vulnerable, or it's going to be too difficult to keep the social distancing and the face mask with my children, or on and on with a bunch of other good reasons why you might not want to attend. So our usual Mass numbers are going to be lower, and that will actually help us meet the requirements of social distancing. The only exception to that is going to be 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock Mass. Now, here's where I'd like to say that this weekend is a trial period. We don't know how many Masses we need until we do this. So what we're going to do is have overflow in the family center. So if you show up for Mass and the hospitality ministers say, we're very sorry, but the main church is closed, we will have an overflow mass in the family center. And we'll ask you to go to church in the family center. If by some miracle we have more people than can fit in both places, we'll ask you to go to the next mass, which works great until you get to the 11 o'clock mass, and there is no mass after that. Okay. From that situation, we'll ask you if you could please wait in your car and watch the live stream. I know that's not the best solution, but right now it is a solution. Once we know how many masses we actually need, that is a solution, and we will bring you communion. So our plan for overflow is we're going to fill the church as efficiently as possible, and I'm going to explain how we're going to pull that off. And then afterwards, we're going to overflow into the family center. And then when the family center overflows, we'll simply ask you could you please go to the next mass, especially Sunday morning. And if we get to that point at 11 o'clock mass, we'll ask people to stay in your cars, please watch the mass on the internet, and then we'll bring communion out to you. Okay. That's mass overflow. The filling of the church is going to be important because if we do this correctly, we'll actually be able to fit more people in as we sit efficiently. So as you know, our church is an amphitheater sort of design where we don't have straight lines of pews. We have 4 segments of pews that are sort of in a trapezoid, shape. It's been a while since geometry. And we won't be able to fit people particularly easily. We're going to have sections, like a little blue X or cross on the pew, and we're expecting to be able to fit a family there. And then two pews back. So we're going to skip a pew and go to the next pew. There are going to be maybe 2 sections there. And certainly as we go deeper in the church, there will definitely be 2 sections. The reality is if a family of 3 sits in the first pew, we can easily fit a couple and a family of 4 in 2 pews further back, as long as the first family sort of sits in the middle. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be super neat. So we're going to have to play this by ear and just try and be as efficient as possible while adjusting to the various sizes of our families that are coming. For those who are coming to Mass by yourself, you are the most important people. I really need your help on this one. We're going to put chairs in the back of the church against the wall. If you remember ages ago, we used to have that lined with chairs. Now we've taken those out right now because they're fabric and they're difficult to sanitize, but we're going to put chairs from the family center back there that are going to be easy to sanitize, and we're going to space them 6 feet apart so that you won't have to worry about the social distancing. You just sit in an empty chair and you will be 6 feet from the nearest person. If you're coming to Mass by yourself, please start by filling in those chairs. That way we'll be able to group the groups of people, the families, in spaces that are easy to group families, and we'll be able to we'll be able to space out the individuals in a space that's easy to space out the individual. Let me tell you a story. Here's what we're trying to do. One time we were trying to clean out a space at Notre Dame at the seminary that I was at that had sort of become a junk room, and we emptied three dumpsters full of stuff that was sort of thrown away but not thrown away. And the first dumpster we filled in like an hour. And the second dumpster was filling just as quickly until somebody realized we need to get somebody in the dumpster. And you couldn't just throw stuff in. That person was literally sitting there and sort of playing Tetris to get all the stuff to fit. So if we do this well, we'll be able to fit more people in the church because we'll do it efficiently. So here's how we're going to try and do that. I'm asking families to start filling in the church when you arrive from the altar space, from the front of the church, back towards the entrance. So some of you may not like that. That's okay. This is the Lord stretching you. You may not like sitting in that first pew, but that's okay. Right now, we really need to try and fill the space efficiently and easily. This will also make sure that nobody is having to crawl over you or look around. It's just going to make it way easier for the next family to be able to see what space is open. For our individuals, for the people coming by themselves, do the same thing. Go to the outside, come in the main doors of the church and go all the way to the outside and fill in from there. That way, the next person will be able to just come in. They won't have to walk past you. We won't have to worry about social distancing. It'll be very easy. and we'll be able to fill in the church very easily and, more importantly, very quickly. That's the seating overflow. For communion, communion is going to be a little difficult. This would be nice if I could just take us on a field trip and show us go in the church, but I'm actually using two different things right now because I wanted to test the microphone and make sure I could make it work. When we're in the church for communion, we still have to maintain the social distancing in communion and when we're going up to receive communion. So here's how the only way I can understand to do that. We're going to try and make it such that only one of the four, one section of pews is in the aisles in any one aisle at a time. So the easiest way for us to do that is, as you know, we have the amphitheater, and there's section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4. There's 4 different sections of pews. Instead of using the center aisle, we're going to use the 2 sort of middle side aisles to distribute communion. And what we'll do is we'll distribute communion to one section and another section at the same time, so that this section can come out of their pews and go back into the pew, just like we ordinarily do for communion. And when they've cleared the aisle, this section, the other section on that side of the church, will be able to come out and receive communion. We'll be able to maintain the social distancing. Nobody will be in the aisles at the same time. And we'll do the same thing on the opposite side of the church in such a way that only one set of pews is in one set of aisles, I guess, at the same time. This is really difficult to explain with words, but it's going to be way easier once we're in the church and we're able to just sort of show us. Somebody's going to be able to demonstrate it to you. And that line for communion will be much easier. There's going to be 2 Eucharistic ministers, the priest celebrant, and then 1 other extraordinary minister of communion, and we'll distribute communion one section at a time, 2 sections at a time, in such a way that nobody's in the aisles at the same time. Everybody's going to receive communion. Okay. Real simple thing about collection. We're going to have a stationary collection basket in the church, just like we did this past weekend on the mass outside. You can still continue to do whatever automatic or by mail payment that you've been doing. Our collection was fantastic this weekend. You guys have been amazing. You're helping us keep the lights on and keep going. We're able to pay all the bills we usually pay, and we're doing awesome. So you guys really turned out and responded to our request that we sent out on Divine Mercy Sunday 6 weeks ago, or 5 weeks ago. After Mass, we're asking, especially at the 7 a.m. and the 9 a.m. Masses. You guys all know how we usually have just a little bit of a time crunch in between the 2 Masses, and it's going to be even more because we have to be able to sanitize the pews after Mass so that it can be safe for everybody coming into the church. So what that means is when Mass is over, we're asking that safely, slowly, but immediately, we would exit the church. And if we could start with the individual people sitting against the walls, they would slowly exit the church, and then pew by pew we'll be able to exit from the various different sides of the church so that we can maintain the social distancing, but at the same time empty the church quick enough that we can start to sanitize the church so that we can be ready for people to arrive 30 minutes before the next Mass. So we need to be able to end 7 o'clock Mass as close to 8 as we can, so that as close to 8:15 the church can be emptied and we can start spraying the sanitizer on the pews for people to arrive and pray before Mass at 8:30. And then the same again for the 9 o'clock Mass in preparation for the 11 o'clock Mass. So I know you're supposed to pray a prayer of thanksgiving, and I know we like to socialize after Mass. We're asking that for the sake of the people coming to church after you, that you would leave the church immediately. Resist the temptation to sit in the parking lot talking closely to people. If as long as you keep the social distancing, you can talk all you want, but don't hug each other goodbye. We have to use our good common sense here. And whenever you're ready to go, just you can leave as you ordinarily would. For our brothers and sisters that are not attending the Mass, Bishop Fobb has asked us to continue to live stream everything that we've been live streaming. So that means at 11 o'clock Mass, everyone who attends 11 o'clock Mass will get a sneak peek into what it's been like for Father Prentice and I for the last, 9 weeks or whatever, however long we've been doing this. And we're going to have the Mass still streamed at 11 a.m. And we'll still stream our daily Masses. So if you cannot attend Mass, or if you choose not to attend Mass, either because you fall in the vulnerable categories, which has to do with whether or not your lungs are strong enough, or you have had pneumonia, or I'm going to get myself into trouble by trying to list all of them, but any of the things that make you vulnerable, we're asking you not to come, at least this weekend. If you have the coronavirus, or if you have any of the symptoms of the coronavirus, we're also asking you to stay home. If you are caring for somebody who does, or you're caring for somebody that fits in the vulnerable category, you probably don't want to come for fear of bringing it to the person you're caring for. Also, because of the social distancing and the need to wear masks, I know a lot of our parents with young children, that's going to be a concern for them. Will I be able to find enough masks? That's part of it. But will my child wear the mask for the entirety of the duration of the mask? Don't feel bad if that's the reason why you stay home. Don't feel bad if you stay home because you're just afraid to get sick. Don't feel bad about that. This is a real big deal, and we've not been here before. At least you and I have never been here before. I guess there are a handful of people among us who have been through the Spanish flu, but most of us have not been around for a worldwide pandemic. So do not feel bad if you're not attending Mass. Mass is still going to be streamed. You can still watch Mass with the bishop at 9 a.m. All of those things will continue just as they have. Now, here are a few things that are not going to continue, and I'm going to explain why. Confession on Sunday, we are suspending confession on Sunday. We are suspending adoration outside on Sunday. I know that sounds abrupt and like we're taking away a lot. Here's the issue. Our Spanish community is going to want to be in our church like they ordinarily do at 3 o'clock. And so not to create confusion, not to create difficulty with the parking lot or with the sacredness of both adoration and confession, we are suspending that practice for the time being. So we will still have confession from 1 to 3 on Saturday, just like we would if we were not in quarantine. We'll still have confession, but it's still going to be outside in front of the family center up until a half hour before Mass, because that's the only place we can have the correct kind of ventilation. We'll have to determine some other things based on how early people start showing up for Mass. Okay, that's confession. I shouldn't be doing this. Miss Melissa, I'm not going to be able to look at your full comment, but if what you're asking me is, will you be able to receive communion at other times during the week? The answer is yes, but it's going to depend on the circumstances, and that may be one of those things. Just call the church and we'll set up an appointment. Okay. I shouldn't have done that, but I didn't want to let the question go while it's literally right here sitting in front of my face. Okay. So for adoration, here is the real good news. Here is the real good news. We will be able to resume having our adoration. We're able to resume having our adoration chapel open. That sounds awkward. We're going to be able to reopen our adoration chapel. Now, it may not be, depending on the number of committed adorers, for this first week, it is not going to be perpetual. That's our hope. That's the goal. That's the long term. But I can see a world in which we just don't have enough of our usual committed adorers who are willing to still venture out during the quarantine, during the coronavirus. And so we were shooting for having our chapel open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay. We still have to maintain the social distancing. So the way that it's going to work with the chapel is we have gone in and removed some number of chairs and kneelers from the chapel. We're going to arrange it such that as long as you're sitting in one of the chairs and everybody else is sitting in one of the chairs, you're going to be 6 feet from the closest person next to you. So what that will allow us to do is if you wear a mask when you enter the chapel and there's another person there, you will be able to maintain a 6 foot social distance easily. We'll have hand sanitizer in there. We'll have sanitizing wipes in there. Make it easy for you to come in, sanitize the chair you're going to sit in, sit there, spend your time with the Lord. There's a few things though that I want to ask us to be mindful of. There's a limit to how many people can be in the chapel at one time. It's however many chairs we can fit in there 6 feet apart. So if you arrive and the chapel, all the chairs are already full in the chapel, then we've maxed out the capacity of the chapel. If you arrive and the chapel is full, I'd ask you to either wait at the St. Jude Grotto or wait in the church. Jesus is also available in the church. He's there. Or wait in your vehicle and just wait for somebody to come out. And if you're in the chapel, be mindful that there may be people waiting to come in. So what that means is if you were intending to be, nobody really should come for like, don't intend to be in the chapel for 3 hours. Maybe intend to be there for at least 15 minutes. And if nobody's opening the door, then feel free to stay as long as you like. But just be mindful that there are other people that may want to be in the chapel at the same time. The second new thing is that we will also be beginning. Oh, by the way, that will begin on Monday, whatever the Monday is. I believe it's Monday, May 18th. So whatever Monday is, we will, yes, May 18th. On Monday, May 18th, we're going to reopen our chapel, but we're also going to restart having public daily mass. Now, daily mass will follow all of the same guidelines and restrictions as our Sunday masses. And we will use this week as an opportunity to see what we need. And so if every day we see we're filling up the church for daily mass and people are waiting outside, we're going to add another daily mass. If we're hearing confessions on Saturday and 1 to 3 happens and we're still hearing confessions, we're going to add more time for confession. If whatever we realize there's more need for, we're going to adjust. If we need more masses, we'll add more masses. If our 4 regular mass times are enough, then our 4 regular mass times are enough. If our daily mass is enough, then our daily mass will be enough. So we're going to use this week. It's very important that we're going to use this week to determine what we need. That means things are not going to go perfect. We may have to ask you to get up and move in the church so we can create the right social distancing. You may show up and our hospitality ministers will have to tell you, we're very sorry, but could you please go to mass in the family center? Could you please wait in your car? Please wait for the next mass because we're full up. Be patient with us. We're going to use this week to determine what we need going forward. And this is going to be most likely, I can't see the future, but this is most likely going to be the circumstances that we're going to be under until the full coronavirus quarantine is lifted. Okay. That concludes my opening thoughts. I know you can go and read our letter. That I just reiterated everything that's in the letter, but that gives us an opportunity to be able to reiterate what we are experiencing right now and make it easy for us. So now I'm going to start to look at questions. If you've got any questions, let me know. You can go ahead and ask your questions in the chat. Please don't text me because I'm using my cell phone to record this. So, and I'm looking at the chat. So if anybody has any questions, or if I missed your question. I don't think I missed any questions. The bathrooms, by definition, I now realize when I load this video up later, you might not be able to see the comments, so I'm going to repeat the question. The question is, will the water fountains in the bathrooms be available? I am fairly certain fairly certain. I don't know why I'm saying it that way. Yes, our bathrooms will be open. Our bathrooms will be open. We're just going to have to. I don't think there's any way for us to not have them open. But we'll have to do a good job. Everybody who goes to the restroom, I would hope that you wash your hands when you go to the restroom, just on an ordinary Sunday. But that'll be on our checklist to sanitize after Mass. And I missed. I know I saw the comment earlier, but just to reemphasize that everybody will have to wear a mask. We'll have some small number of them ready and available. But when we run out, we run out. I mean, we'll keep reordering them, but we ordered some for last weekend. We were assured that they were going to come in for last weekend, and they didn't come in for last weekend. Okay. Any other comments or questions? I forgot about this, but just to remind everybody to please, if once you've gotten this, please share it. Please share it with the next person, especially if there's somebody you first that didn't know about last weekend's Mass until you told them. Please reach out to them, make sure they know. Miss Rhonda, the question is, if you have a holy hour, should you go to your holy hour, or is the chapel just open from 7 to 7? For right now, I think it best for the first week just to be open from 7 to 7. I have we've asked Miss Sarah to reach out to all of our adorers and see who's willing to come and be an adorer, even during the ordinary times. So what we foresee is that we may not have enough adorers to ensure that the chapel is going to be open, and somebody's going to be with Jesus the whole time. So if you have if your holy hour is between 7 and 7, then yes, please go to your usual holy hour. We're going to be counting on you, unless of course there's a reason why you didn't want to do that, because you can't or don't want to go out in the quarantine for all those good reasons we talked about why you might not come to Mass. Okay. Once we know we have enough people to be open 24/7, we will go back in that direction. My hope is to return to as normal as possible as soon as possible. Okay. There was then a question about whether or not we would have an offertory procession. We are not going to resume the offertory procession until the social distancing is over. So the issue is if we do offertory, there's extra physical contact that the Mass allows us not to have. So we're going to have an offertory hymn. That time will happen. Offerings will be made, but we're not going to pass a basket. We're not going to bring the gifts from the entrance of the church to the altar, just because that is going to create extra. That's going to create extra physical contact, and we're trying not to do that. Yes, our daily masses will resume on May 18th at 7:30 a.m. Our normal ushers. So the question is, are our normal ushers needed to help? For our normal ushers, we're reaching out to specific ushers and asking them to help us communicate with the other ushers and our other hospitality ministers. However, my suggestion is you go to the Mass you would, if you're coming to Mass, you go to the Mass that you would ordinarily go to, and hopefully we'll have reached out to you already. There's some amount of, we're trying to reach out to everybody, but sometimes you get missed. So we're trying to make sure that the chain of communication works. And there will be somebody at every Mass who has been briefed on the plan so that it will be easy for them to help direct and lead the other hospitality ministers. I'm saying hospitality ministers rather than ushers because as with all things with this, I perceive that there are some number of ushers, not all of them certainly, but some number of ushers that are, for all the many good reasons that we said before, are going to choose not to come to mass this Sunday. So we're reaching out to specific ushers, asking them, hey, are you going to your usual mass? Would you be willing to be an usher? Would you be willing to lead the guys? Would you call all the other guys who go to that mass? And then we'll have one person that'll know the plan, and we'll be able to go forward and keep everybody safe, but also keep all the guidelines followed. So those were all very good questions. Okay. Did I talk about sharing? Yeah, yes. Please make sure that please make sure that you pass on this. Once you get this information, you pass it on to the next person in line. If there's somebody that you communicated with last weekend, please re-communicate with them for this weekend. If there's anybody that the people that you know, just casually mention, hey, did you hear about the masses at Christ the Redeemer this weekend? Did you hear about the masses anywhere this weekend? And if they say no, give them the download. And if they say yes, then great, our communication plan worked. But this cascading of information is the closest thing to ensuring that everybody receives all of the information. Because even if we called everybody, there's no guarantee that all of our phone numbers are correct. There's no guarantee that everybody who gets the voicemail is going to listen to it. So the more we cascade the information, the better it's going to be. So there's a question about will there be a priest distributing communion in the family center? Is that correct? Our plan is for overflow is that we will actually have a second mass in the family center. And that would start a few minutes after the mass in the main church. So, for 9 o'clock mass, 9 a.m. mass, if there's overflow, we'll direct those people into the family center. And then at 9:05, 9:07, 9:10, whatever, we'll begin another whole mass. Now it'll be different. There won't be any music. It'll be a much simpler mass, but that will give us an opportunity to celebrate mass after the church is already full. And at 9 o'clock mass, there's more that can fit in both the church and the family center. Which the good news is I'm fairly certain we could fit the majority of the people, the 250 people that came to our outdoor mass, in the church and the family center combined. We could probably fit most of those people. So that's all the people that came to the one mass for the weekend. Now we're going to have 4 of those. So it is unlikely that we're going to max out both the church and the family center, but we may fill up the church. So it's not merely that there's going to be a priest distributing communion in the family center, that we're planning on having one of us, either me or Father Prentice, celebrate the mass in the family center. That'll most likely only be at the 9 and the 11 o'clock mass. And it's entirely likely that we won't need it. Especially if we look back at if you remember on March 15th, it was the first weekend where we were dispensed from our Sunday obligation. We could do most of those masses without needing the overflow. Okay. Well, it has been 40 minutes. The video is 51 minutes long at this point. If there are no further questions, going once, going twice. If there are no further questions, we'll bring this to a close. I'll leave it on Facebook. I'll leave it on Facebook so that you can go back to, you can share it. I'll leave it on YouTube so that you can share it. I'll put it on the Mass in the Church. I'll put it in the Mass in the Church page, and we'll be able to do all of that. There's a question about the office being open to the public on the 18th. That is a great question that I have not considered yet. However, the stay-at-home order is lifted, and we're able to operate at 25% capacity. So I don't have a yes or no, but it seems reasonable that we would be able to reopen our office. Please explain communion in the cars for those in the live stream who are in cars for reasons not going into the church for any reason. Okay. So the question about communion in the cars, for those who arrive, particularly at the 11 o'clock Mass, and the church and the family center are full, we would ask you to stay in your car and watch the live stream. And then when it comes time for communion, we will go out into the parking lot and bring communion to those in the parking lot. So now the reality is that just like this past weekend, when we're leaving the church, so you're going to be watching the live stream. So when you see us start giving communion, you need to be ready to get out of your car and be visible, because it is very, very difficult to see if a car has a person in it, and even more, I guess, difficult to see if that person wants communion. So if you want communion, when we're distributing communion in the church, we will go out into the parking lot to distribute communion. Please exit your car and make sure you're visible. Now is the time to distance, but not the time to be shy. So please make sure that we are able to see you so that we can serve you well. Okay. The next question is about sanitizing the Adoration Chapel. Our system for sanitizing the Adoration Chapel is for those of you brothers and sisters who come into the Adoration Chapel. When you walk in, there are going to be sanitizing wipes and hand sanitizer available to you. We want you to walk in, take a sanitizing wipe, and whatever chair you're sitting in, go and sanitize the handles and any solid surface that is available to you. This imagine like you would going to the gym. You know, when you go to the gym, when you get done using a machine, you're supposed to sanitize it. The only way you can be certain that the chair is sanitized is when you get there, you wipe it down right away before you sit in it. And that's the only way I could foresee us being able to ensure that when you sit in that chair, it's been sanitized. I know that's not a perfect solution, but that is the one that's going to work the best. It's the only way we can do this rolling for 12 hours a day from 7 to 7. Okay, the question is, what website again? You can go to CTR, the letter C, the letter T, the letter R, dash. I had it open, then I closed it. Oh, there it is. You go to ctr-htdiocese.org. That's our parish website. And if you watch our, if you go there, the first two things, one of them is look at our Mass options, and the second thing is, the second large button is a Mass with social distancing announcement. You click on either of those two things, it will take you to the Mass with social distancing page, and all the things that we've talked about, minus the new questions, are going to be on that page. And this is what's on that page is what we emailed to you. It's what we texted you. All of that stuff will be available. And I could put the link with the video when it's over. But it's ctr-htdiocese.org. And for all of those of you who just started watching us, once this is finished, I'm going to post the video, so you can just start watching it from the beginning if you want to get all the information. And it's going to stay up there with all the information and all the links. Okay. So, once again, if there are no further questions, we'll bring this to a close, and feel free to either message. The best way to make sure we get your question is if you message um, our Christ the Redeemer's webpage, or you can email us. But if you leave a comment in the comments asking a question, that could be easy to miss with the large number of comments and notes that are going to come with this particular video. But if you direct message us, we will not miss that. Okay. Why don't we close like we started, and we'll have a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good and loving God, we give you thanks for this day that you've blessed us. You've allowed us to exercise our faith in freedom. You've allowed us to exercise not only our free will, but the power of our intelligence and our reason. You've given us the ability to combat and fight against the coronavirus and not to behold sway to it. We ask you, Lord, that you would bless us and help us go forward, not only be closer to you and closer to heaven, but also to be closer to one another and work for the good of all. Thank you all very much, brothers and sisters, and we will see you next weekend. Bye-bye.